Sullen skies over East Lothian today, but those same skies played a vital part in aviation history. Fitting then that remnants of one of the great aerial experiments of the 20th century should reside here. This is the story of the Bristol Brabazon. Shortly after World War II, the British government commissioned the Bristol Aviation Company to build a luxurious plane. It would be based on a bomber from World War II, which in the end was never completed. Its wingspan would be 70 metres, bigger than a modern-day Boeing 747, and it would have 8 engines. It would be called the Bristol Brabazon. An entire village near Bristol was knocked down for the building of a runway big enough for the Brabazon. It was said that this airplane would be the biggest on Earth. Very soon it was visiting Scotland, flying over cities, landing on airstrips like those here and airports like Prestwick in 1951.
Each passenger had a space in the cabin roughly about the size of a small car, so nothing like modern airliners where you've got minimal legroom. You would have had this huge sort of space to yourself. And by the time that was coming in, airlines were looking more at, we want to carry as many passengers as possible, make it as cheap as possible. British Overseas Airways Corporation, which was the British national airline, had lost interest in the idea, so they didn't place any orders, and neither did any other airliner. So in the end, the British government cancelled it. But by 1953, it was all over, and they scrapped both of them. And basically what we have here, which is the nose undercarriage, is the largest piece surviving of it. So it's kind of one of history's great what-ifs. One could argue that it wasn't necessarily wasted money because they developed systems that, although the Brabazon never flew, were used elsewhere. I mean, this was the first British aircraft with powered flying controls. It was just because it was so huge. As is often the way, investment in infrastructure is never wasted. Prestwick Airport in the west of Scotland was used for many years for trial flights, crew training flights. So they were flying up to Prestwick and doing trial flights, and I mean, they were flying over various parts of Scotland, Edinburgh and Fife. I've noticed it never actually carried any passengers, but there's various accounts from people who remember seeing it flying over, and there's people who were children at the time who were allowed, you know, the whole class was allowed at the classroom to watch it fly overhead, and they remember the very distinctive sound. If you can imagine 8 very large piston engines, that's a sound you wouldn't mistake for anything else. Anyone who was sort of around in the sort of late 1940s who was lucky enough to see it, I think it's a sight they will never forget.
The Brabazon was abandoned and scrapped. It's fitting, though, that the largest remaining part of the Bristol Brabazon should remain here in East Lothian, once a capital of the skies.